All right, guys, welcome back to Ricky's Corner, episode 15, where we're going to carry on from our string of previous episodes that started back on episode 12 with the introduction to our topics. And on this particular episode, we're going to talk about sports, specifically the aftermath of the NBA Finals. So first, I want to say that I called out that for a while now that the Golden State Warriors were not going to win their third championship in a row, and I'm pretty happy about that for a few reasons. First, I did not want this team to three-peat, meaning I didn't want this team to win three titles in a row, back to back to back. Something that was done by the Chicago Bulls, okay, twice, okay, with Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, and Phil Jackson, okay. I didn't want Golden State to do that. Now, it doesn't take away from their greatness because they won three titles in 5 years. So they're definitely going to be rated as one of the best teams ever. One of the best. Could consider them like a dynasty, but definitely not in the class of the Chicago Bulls. And the last team to three-peat, in fact, were the LA Lakers with Kobe and Shaq. And that's a dynasty that could have just been perhaps something that could have challenged Bill Russell's Celtic dynasties because Shaq and Kobe at their primes, wow. But Kobe's ego kind of ended that whole thing. So obviously, I was glad that they didn't win any more than three titles, meaning in a row. So even though Kobe then won two titles, later on as his own self, leading the team on his own under Phil, I knew they weren't going to three-peat there either. So I wasn't too concerned about that. So my second reason for wanting Golden State not to win was because I'm not a big Stephen Curry fan. I'm not a big fan of the Warriors. Period. So it's not just about Curry. I don't like Draymond Green. I think he cries too much. For such a good player, he cries too much. He fouls a lot more and he's always like, he acts like he never fouled anybody. And never really quite understood why he was so unprofessional with LeBron back when they were battling in those finals days. So, and Clay, I like Clay, but sometimes I don't like Clay. As my son pointed out, sometimes he gets a little bit too carried away. You know what I mean? With his attitude, he acts like, when he's on fire, he's making these shots, and yeah, he's great, he's good. But you know what? You're not carrying this team by yourself either. So you have a little bit more room to do good because ultimately the consequences doesn't fall on you. There's pressure more on Stephen Curry, for example, which we'll discuss later. But another reason was I just simply didn't think that this team, and it could have been any team, it was a concern certainly with the Bulls when they were going for their third title, is that is an extremely hard thing to do. To win a title is hard in itself. To repeat is even more challenging. And then to go for another year where you go through this 82 game season, you're mentally exhausted or you're bored because, you've won it all. You've been at the apex of it all. So you're going through this monotony and then you're expected to kind of turn it on during the playoffs. You know what I mean? So it also is a situation where the other teams are going to play harder than you are because they want to beat you, where you're kind of like coasting and, you already know you're the champ. So there's already an automatic emotional letdown. So that's a very hard thing to continue mentally, is to continue this focus to continue to be on top. And then, of course, you're talking about the physical as well, right? The physical breakdown that happens. These players have been playing more games than any other players out there because they've been to the finals, for all the whole 82 game season, plus then the whole playoff run. And now you're talking about 3 years in a row. It's a lot of physical tear on your body. So that is a thing that's natural to come, a breakdown of the physical, the injuries, and then, of course, the emotional. So you combine those two things. I really didn't think that Golden State was in a position to actually pull it out. Then, you're talking about in the East where you have, and at first I was going for Milwaukee. I thought Milwaukee was going to win, and certainly Milwaukee was up 2-0 on Toronto in their series. And so if it wasn't for the combination of the veteran Raptors and the greatness of Kawhi Leonard combined with Giannis, being young and kind of being really just the focal point of the offense, and then, not being able to make the adjustments, Milwaukee that is, to counter the defense of the Raptors, and not coming down at the end of the day by just a couple of lucky bounces. Because if Kawhi's shot bounces the wrong way, they lose and Milwaukee's in, and they're probably the champs. So I was going for Milwaukee. I was close on that prediction. And again, if it wasn't for Kawhi's destiny type of shot, if you look it up, 3 bounces, I mean, come on. But they made it. Nevertheless, the shot was made. They made it. The veteran team pulled it out in the finals. You're talking about several players that were defensive of the year type of players, or great defensive players. And they certainly challenged Golden State, and they had home court advantage. So, I made a bet, and I won that bet. Not just in terms of really I won some money because of that bet, but I just won the bet because I was looking at all those things combined. Okay, so that's the reason that I didn't want Golden State to win. And so bottom line is they didn't win. And now we're talking about tremendous impact in regards to what that means for them. And it has a bigger meaning than actually the Golden State Warriors. So, for example, first, of course, Oracle's that's it. Oracle's done, right? So their playing stadium shut down. Very bad for Oakland. You had Oakland with this tremendous rebirth because of the way the Warriors were playing over the last 5-7 years. And now they're going to San Francisco. They're going across the bay. So you're going from a situation where you get the nitty-gritty fan in Oakland, and now you're going to go to very high-class San Francisco. Where the tech giants basically are at and so forth, right? So this is very interesting dynamic into itself. So what does that mean, in terms of, the organization, the loyalty, and the impact again on Oakland being left out? Because you're talking about all those jobs, you're talking about all that money that was going into Oakland, now it's going to San Francisco. Right, so once again, the demographics, the poor and the middle class that represented Oakland, they're gonna get shafted. So it's like gentrification almost. You know what I'm saying? It's just a shame. It's a real shame. Now, in terms of the way the organization Golden State handled the injuries, with Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson. So first and foremost, you can't fault a player for wanting to play, right? So kudos to Kevin Durant because he didn't have to come back and really play. Although, of course, he would have been pressured and he would have heard it maybe in social media. But at the end of the day, he didn't have to. He came back. He wanted to help his team win. And so he did that. He did what he could do and was doing at the time. Um, and then, of course, that injury came back because, you know, when you just come off an injury like that, these things are risky. I felt like Golden State should have used him kind of like a Willis Reed type of moment. You know, Willis Reed came out there, he hit his first two shots for the Knicks. This is for people who don't know, who don't remember, don't know history. Look up Willis Reed and the Knicks. I think it's 72. Anyways, Willis Reed came out. The Garden was going crazy. He hits his first two shots, and then they kind of take him out. And so Durant in that game, he hit like his first 3 or 4 shots or whatever. You know what I mean? Like nothing. That should have been enough. Golden State was already, you know, getting this adrenaline, this rush. They should have sat him down and just kept them kind of like just needed, maybe just if they really needed him, you know, or very small spurts, maybe to end quarters or something. So they didn't handle that well, obviously. Now, it's easy for us to judge in hindsight, obviously, because Golden State was desperate, okay? They knew that they had to win that game. So they were very desperate. But, you know, at the end of the day, they should have really made the better decision to be more conservative than not. And they didn't. So, anyways, Kevin Durant was probably leaving the organization anyways. My money is that he's going to go to the Knicks, or it was, and it still is, even though he obviously has this tremendous injury, and that's going to set him back, and maybe even set back the fact that the Knicks are going to go after him as hard as they wanted to. I still think he's going to end up with the New York Knicks as during the summer, and then we'll see exactly. I think people will give Kevin Durant more respect going to an organization that has been atrocious and having the ability to make it into a winning franchise again. So, bottom line is, it may affect who he goes with, how much money he's offered in terms of guaranteed money. But I still think he's going to end up with the New York Knicks. Regardless if he had gotten hurt or not. I think that Klay Thompson now is probably going to stay with Golden State. Although I wish that he would go with the Lakers. Well, I don't know if wish is the right word because I really don't care at the end of the day. But it would be, I think, fantastic if the Lakers could get Klay Thompson. So now you have LeBron, you have Anthony Davis, and Klay Thompson. Wow. Okay. That would be something. Because the guy could shoot his brains out. I mean, the guy was so clutch in that series, shooting over 70%, I think, on threes. Ridiculous. But I think that Golden State's going to end up keeping Klay Thompson. And, he represents that organization a lot, like Stephen Curry. So I would be shocked if he left. But if I were the Lakers and other teams, I would make a strong run at Klay Thompson. Because not only can the guy shoot, not only is the guy showing that he's a clutch shooter, but he's a good defensive player. And he's very competitive, He's a winning player. Now, in regards to Stephen Curry, 0 for 8. That's all I got to say is 0 for 8. 0 for 8 on field goals, either to tie the game or to win the game within the last 24 seconds. So think about that, okay? This is your superstar, all right? This is the guy that you paid the big bucks for, right? And no doubt, Stefan is a transcendent player. Regardless if I like him or not, if I like the way the game has moved into a much more finesse game, it doesn't matter. He's been a big part of that transformation that's made it perhaps even more popular. You know, kids seeing this 6'3", 6'2" guy shooting jumpers from 30 plus feet like nothing, um, under difficult circumstances at, you know, such a quick release. You know what I mean? I mean, the guy really is a gifted shooter. And that's an understatement. You know, he'll go down as one of the best shooters of all time. Transformative, absolutely. Um, you know, but 0 for 8. Okay. He had a chance to win that game, for Golden State, on a game 6, was it? Yeah, game 6. Uh, he had a chance to win it for them. He had a good look. He's made shots like that with less of a look, okay? When it's not so heavily pressured. Look him up and making shots, okay? He's made that shot numerous times under, you know, less pressured times, but he's made that shot. So the only difference really in this shot attempt was the stakes. And again, he's 0 for 8 in shots that either tie the game or puts his team ahead within the last 24 seconds. He had a chance to win it, would have brought it to a game 7 when anything could happen. He didn't do it. So I let those numbers speak for themselves. Um, Moving on to the Toronto Raptors. Um, you know, it's tremendous. They get rid of what is it? The Morzon, I think his name was. You know, they make some big changes from last year. They've been in the playoffs for the last few years, and just kept losing to LeBron, in Cleveland. But now they get Kawhi Leonard. They get Marc Gasol midway. Um, they got other obviously veteran players. Like Serge Ibaka, who was in the NBA Finals himself with KD and Oakland, the Thunder when they played against Miami Heat, and when LeBron won his first. So you have these veteran players. You got this interesting coach who never really quite played for the NBA before, Nick Nurse. And they end up winning it all. So it's really an unheard of thing for a team that just really wasn't expected to win it all, to especially after making several big changes. And then in 1 year, they end up doing something that so many teams can't do. So kudos to Nick Nurse, kudos to the Toronto organization. Kudos, obviously, to Kawhi Leonard, Marc Gasol, Serge Ibaka, and all the other players. That young man, Sakeem, I think his name is, being young and all. But they played great. They played kind of more old school basketball. A lot more defense. They were a bigger team than Golden State. More lengthier players. They play more to the inside too. And Kawhi with that mid-range game. You know what I'm saying? The mid-range game, man. So kudos to them. In terms of what happens now, I don't think Toronto's going to win again, unless they keep Kawhi, they keep Gasol, and maybe make some, keep pretty much the team impact and make some other maybe changes to kind of supplement for. But if they lose Kawhi, they're definitely not going to win. And he has the ability now to go pretty much wherever he wants, Kawhi Leonard. So the word is, the Clippers. Looks like the team that the buzz is surrounding, with Doc Rivers and the Clippers. Maybe, who knows, with the Lakers. Can you imagine LeBron, Kawhi, and Anthony Davis? You know what I mean? So we don't know. But it's going to be an interesting summer for sure. So big names: Kawhi Leonard, KD, Klay Thompson. going to be very interesting. Kyrie Irving, this loser, right? Because Kyrie, man, you know, he cried because he wanted to leave LeBron's shadow. He left Cleveland. They had a chance to maybe go for it again. This guy, you know what I'm saying? So he goes to Boston, you know, where he's going to be the man. He's going to have the ball. You know, it's going to be his show. And then he ends up crying because he can't get the team to rally around him and win. Because the pressure is all on him. Well, hello, that's what happens when you declare that you want to be on your own. It's not as easy as you think, is it? Being the man. But that's what you wanted, that's what you got, and now you're crying about it. So now there's word that he may join KD even. Or maybe he just goes to the Brooklyn Nets, and maybe obviously the Brooklyn Nets are going to try to get KD too. So that's another interesting thing, the battle in New York, right? You got the city versus Brooklyn. Very, very interesting summer for sure in the NBA. And then let's not forget, the whole situation with the Lakers, right? So they got Anthony Davis. They've been wanting to do that since last year, and all the tampering and all the shit that Magic and Pelinka and the organization did. So that was a freaking mess into itself. But they ended up getting Anthony Davis. Bottom line, a peak player, a young player, he's 26. I mean, a guy could play inside, outside. He plays defense, okay? Kind of like a modern Olajuwon, if you will, kind of, right? So they could be huge. They could do huge things. So, the thing is, they pretty much sacrificed their entire future, their entire future for the Pelicans, because they got all these draft picks. They let, all these draft picks and all this to the LA Lakers to get Anthony Davis. So the real winner, I guess you could say, were the Pelicans because they got so much in return. But if the Lakers end up winning, let's say this upcoming year, obviously it could be definitely worth it, especially if they end up winning multiples. Of course, if Anthony Davis stays with the Lakers, because he's a free agent, I think, the next year. So very interesting dynamic there. In terms of the Lakers, Jeannie Buss, man, she got her ass saved, at least for the moment, because of the Weasel Polanco. Man, that whole situation. This guy, man, he's such a storyteller. You know what I mean? I mean, what a weasel. You had the whole Magic situation going on, and each other throwing each other under the bus. It's just a tremendous, nasty mess. There's a lot of pressure on the Lakers. And Jeannie and Polanco, this weasel, they got to come through. They came through with Anthony Davis. Let's just see what happens in terms of the rest of the team forming and see what happens. But, a big mess for sure. They got a reprieve for now, but let's just see what happens. Let's move on to, let's see. That's pretty much it, I think, for the sports topic. The next thing that we're going to talk about is current events, and I think I'm going to have to definitely do that in another segment. So, my people, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in to Ricky's Corner, episode 15. And again, if you like these videos, subscribe, share, comment. It's always much appreciated. With that said, be in the know. Peace out to the next one.